There was a sixth grader that didn't want to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. And while he sat down and had every right in the world to sit down for the Pledge of Allegiance, you had a teacher that went up behind him and jerked him up out of his chair, which he had no right to do so.
Teacher consultant comes up from behind me and snatches me out of my chair violently.
What did you think at that point?
I was so confused. I didn't know what was going on.
Stone Chaney says a homeroom teacher at East Middle School tried forcing him to stand during the Pledge of Allegiance.
I don't stand for the pledge because I don't pledge to a flag. I pledge to God and my family.
The alleged incident happened last Thursday. Chaney says the next day, another teacher yelled at him for sitting down during the pledge.
I don't feel safe going to that school anymore because I don't know what they're going to do to me next.
His father addressed the district directly during their last board meeting.
It's his choice to sit. I don't make him sit. It's his choice. And they should respect that.
Marine veteran Stephen Stevens sees things differently.
I would love to be able to talk to them and, try to get their side and try to explain my side so maybe we could come to an understanding, because I understand that they have that right to do that, but I don't believe that they understand what that right really entails.
If they're fighting for freedom and fighting for us to have choices, then it's our choice.
Before we get started with the commentary, we want to reach out to our supporters and viewers to support the Houston Flood Relief Fund. We have 1 day left, and that particular campaign will be over. I want to thank every person who has donated and helped us to help provide for the people that's in need at this current time. Even though the television cameras aren't here, there's still a lot of needs. And if you give any amount, it would be greatly appreciated. Now, as we saw that young man and his father, which, I love to see that dynamic. It just warms my heart to see that. The young man gives me hope for the future. This young man understands very early in the sixth grade that flag is nothing you pledge allegiance to. That young man had the best statement. He said, I pledge allegiance to God and my family. And also, I probably would add, pledge allegiance to your community, not a flag, because that flag and everything it represents don't pledge allegiance to us. As the great sister Fannie Lou Hamer said, that flag is drenched in our blood. Every time you see these race soldiers running around killing black people, a lot of times they're walking around that same flag on their police uniform. You have soldiers that come back to this country fighting in lands they shouldn't be in the first place, fighting a politician's war, expanding the white supremacist empire, because these people in other countries aren't doing anything to America. They just want to take their resources and bully them. That's why Kim Jong-un constantly trying to set off bombs to make sure he don't get bullied, because anybody with nuclear weapons don't get bullied. Have you noticed that? But as these soldiers come back home, they're still called the N-word. They're still disrespected. They're not honored. You have these race soldiers gunning down veterans like Walter Scott. And then originally Michael Slater got off for it. So what does it mean for a black man to be in the military serving a flag? And then these same people who run around talking about freedom of speech, notice that they don't want freedom of speech for black people. Colin Kaepernick took a knee as a guise of freedom of speech. And now he's blackballed from the NFL because you have a bunch of white supremacist owners want to say he didn't want to stand up for our flag. This young man is sitting down. You think this young man don't look at all the race soldiers killing black people? You think this young man don't see the majority of those in Caucasian community support those race soldiers that kill black people, that watch the memes they make of black people, constantly mocking us, think it's a game and think it's funny every time a black child dies or a black man or a black woman dies at the hands of the race soldiers? That child see all of that. He's a black male. He's going to deal with racism times 100 in this nation. Then you have these people putting their nasty hands on that child to jerk him up out of a chair, treating him like he's a slave on the plantation, that you can put your nasty hands on him. And then another one is going to sit there and talk greasy to him about standing up for a flag. No black person in America should be standing up for that flag. You want black people to stand up for that flag? Do what's right by black people. First of all, pay a reparation. That's what you need to do. You owe black people that. 246 years of free labor that they got, and that's why this country is where it's at today. That's why it's reported that Caucasians are 68 times more wealthy than black people. You know how you got that? The free 246 years of labor. There's also another study came out that says it would take black people 243 years to catch up with the Caucasian wealth in this community. It's about 3 years off from the time black people were slaves. I told black people, until they stop calling you the N-word and celebrating your death and treating you less than, why in the world you gonna stand up and put your hand on your heart for a flag that doesn't care about you? We went around here all day long talking about a Confederate flag and Confederate. Well, you know what? That same other flag too is a problem, because you're not being killed with the race soldiers with a Confederate flag on. It's an American flag that's killing you too. And they still doing it to this day. Who got you under mass incarceration? That American flag. It's not the Confederate flag. So we would need to make sure we put it in the proper context. One flag is not better than the other. One flag was just morphed into the other, and that's it. But it's still the same values. They still have you in slavery. They just transferred it from private slavery to state-owned slavery. But you're still enslaved to this day. And the majority of people in prison is black people for nonviolent offenses, because they have not had one day in America without slavery. So why in the hell are you standing up or doing anything about that flag? Why? They get all upset about the flag. Forget them. We upset we losing our lives. We upset we are treated different than others. We upset that we gotta be 10 times or 100 times more educated just to get a job one of them get with no education. We upset about that, the double standards. That they run around here crying about freedom of speech, but the moment black people do it, then all of a sudden you need to get jerked up out of a chair, or you need to get blackballed out of the NFL. There's no freedom of speech for black people, just for Caucasian males. So forget that flag. That's how I feel about it. Until you treat black people right, I have a different attitude about it after that. And any black person standing up for that flag, you just showing you colonized and you indoctrinated. Because they wouldn't indoctrinate you to stand up and put your hand on your heart for a flag. But yet you poisoning the water supply in Flint. We have chemicals all in the air. You have GMO foods. You're giving steroids to animals. This is poisoning the food and making people sick. Underneath that flag, remember that. So why is it that we should be standing up? That's the only thing I want to know. Oh, they say, well, we fought for that. Well, that's your business. It's not mine. Until you stop calling black people the N-word in this country and treat black people like you would treat yourself, that's the only time I'm going to think different. But leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about this particular story. Share the video, like the commentary, and subscribe for more news stories.